We have the privilege today of having one of our elders come and share with us God's Word. Mr. Jeff Klippenes, please come forward.
Last week I figured out who the Antichrist was. It's AT&T.
Amen.
And then yesterday, Isaac, one of your lap brothers, showed up with the name of Jose and fixed everything. But literally, getting to this morning has been this incredible comedy of errors. Doug asked me to speak on hearing God, which is no small task, right? And I've been noodling on it for some time. And then about 3 weeks ago, I decided to sit down and just start holding together some of the conversations that God and I were having. In that day, the water quit coming into the house, electricity quit, AT&T by way of phone quit, AT&T by way of internet quit, our gate electronically quit, $1,600 repair the motherboard. The rotor tiller wouldn't start. I'm mowing down by the creek with Jackie's lawnmower. It ran out of gas. I get off, go get a can of gas, get stung by a swarm of bees. The thermostats on the hottest days that we had here last week won't work because the internet doesn't work. We have these really cool widgets, the Nest. So we're sweltering. But the best one, my favorite one was, I had a hand truck, we have goats and we have chickens. And I had a bag of about 50, 60 pounds of lane crumble on the hand truck, and I pulled it back and started to slide off. So, being the intelligent man that I am, I thought, snatch it quick before it comes off. So, wham! I hit myself in the head, cold cocked myself, knocked myself out. I'm on the ground. I come to because my dog was licking my face. And I'm looking around saying, please, someone have caught that on video. I mean, it was just amazing. My vehicle had to go in the shop. Well, they had to have it back in 3 different times to get it serviced. I'm pulling onto the on-ramp. We're getting ready to turn on the on-ramp. This is Tuesday morning. A tractor-trailer rig coming off the freeway decides to blow through the stop. I hit the binders and stop about this far in front of the tractor-trailer rig as it's going across. My dog's underneath the dash at that point. Yesterday, coming home after session, I go to pull into the canyon, Palmer's Canyon, and there's a chicken in the road. An Earth Mom, with her little minivan, sees the chicken and decides, I'm going to swerve and save this little life. Lo and behold, the life that she's endangering is mine. I end up in the bushes to avoid her. Now, you could say that the enemy didn't want us thinking about what we're going to talk about this morning, right? You can call that spiritual warfare if you want. But my dad stopped me. You see, to hear God, we've got to wrestle a few things. Like, what is real to you may not be reality. What is true to you may not be truth. And so, during all of these episodes unfolding, I'm here to tell you, I wasn't showing so well. I was very intimate with Max in India too many times. I have a new best girlfriend in the South by the name of April. And she goes, honey, if I were making these calls to you or you were making these to me, I would be handling this very different. I said, you're just the face. I know a gal in Indianapolis that had tickets to the Indianapolis 500. These are all the people with AT&T. And I could feel my spirit start to churn. It was not Christ-like when I couldn't understand Max the first time. I said, Max, push the red reset button, get me something in English. And as soon as I said that, I went, wow, there's the Spirit of Christ. We have to understand that the enemy will always want to make it about shame. The enemy will always want to make it about your condition. We have to understand it's never about my condition. It's about my position. Anchor that. So to get to what's real, all hell seems to have broken loose. I even got sideways with my lovely bride. Can you imagine getting sideways with an Italian woman? That probably never happened. It's a life-endangering thing. Don't do it. I heard my father say, son, I'm taunting the enemy. I'm despising the enemy because He don't know you like I know you. When oppression, when circumstances pile up against you, do you stop to think that there's a Father in heaven who swells up with pride? He knows what you're made of. He sees in you far greater dignity than you ever could. He believes in you more than you ever will. He expects you to fail far more frequently than you do. Because we're still looking at ourselves through the eyes of broken flesh rather than the new creation. Overthinking and overdrinking, neither one of them are good. But one's going to send you to hell pretty quick. That's not the booze. We've got to get back to the garden, those two trees. The tree of life, this is the tree of I am. And God said, of this tree eat freely. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, this is the tree of I know, the legal tree. And we must learn to discern in our minds, in our bodies, in our spirit, where that energy is coming from. For you which have been divorced, anytime someone reads Malachi, God hates divorce, don't you kind of feel like what's being said is, he hates me? When's the last time you read that and heard God sigh? I hate divorce. It was horrible for me. It was horrible for me. Right? Because God says through the prophets, I'm divorcing Israel. You know I'm divorcing Israel? Because I can't fix her. I can't heal her. Why could God not heal her? Because over and over and over, God says, I just wanted to talk. I wanted to talk. I wanted to be with you. I wanted to relate. It's always been the heart of the Trinity to be relational, to be connected. Jesus said, my sheep know my voice, which begs the question, what does God's voice sound like? Does it sound like, hey, Nico? Hey, Neat. Nico? Nico? Come on. Hey, Neat. You two will fall asleep when you're two. Does it look like when God calls your name? Normally when I call his name, he gets wiggly, but say it. Or does it look like, Nico, here? See the countenance change? Yeah, you say, oh, and you empathize with the dog. Looks like someone that loves your needs. What do you think, God, when he calls your name, what do you feel? You're either going to feel the animation of this excitement, of this wiggly butt, or you're going to feel the oppressiveness that you saw in him. When you think about being close to God, does it create the sense of animation, being alive, or not? See, God is to be discerned sensually. Your senses, your body should bear witness to your approach to God, if you would. I was sitting in an MRI tank Thursday, and I fell asleep, which I guess is not real common. And when I came out of the tube, and they said you were sleeping or dead, I thought, that's it, isn't it, God? Eyes to see, ears to hear. It's all about noise training. Because in that little confined tube where there's all kinds of sounds going on, if you wrap fantasy around that, you can push, if you would, what that story is that's going on there. And if you push a story into something that's pleasurable, all of a sudden relaxation begins to develop in your body. To see and to hear, that's what we're working with, to hear God's voice. To get to hearing God, there's some things that are absolutely essential, is that you have to be feeding from the tree of life. You have to be willing to believe that God is good and he is for you. I remember a number of years ago, probably about 20, 25 years ago, I was cutting wood in the backyard. The chainsaw ran out of gas. And normally, I run a chainsaw for about an hour with the MS stuff. We get real jiggly, and working with a chainsaw is probably not the best thing if you can't really focus too well. So the saw ran out of gas, and God said to me, "Hey, I got a question for you." And when God speaks, it's distinctive, and it's not uncommon. It's like, what? You get kind of this out of sequence thing. And so then I'm looking around at these blocks of wood thinking, do I tip one up for God to sit on as well? And so I did. And he said, the question is this, Jeff. If I never ever used you again, but you and I hung out in great intimacy, would that be enough? Got me. I said, well, God, I got a problem here because you're omniscient, right? I said, I know what the right answer is, God. But there's too much insecurity in my heart. I'm still kind of stuck with, you saved me to use me. But maybe there's still too much residual here of, you've got to somehow get some mileage out of me. I grew up in northern Minnesota. We weren't a Christian family, we were Lutherans. And why that's funny is because this traveling evangelist comes through, my mom and dad, my oldest brother gets saved, the pastor gets saved. The church runs him out of town because he starts preaching Jesus. So about 3-4 months later, it's a Wednesday evening, I'm playing ball, my mom shows up on the ball field and says, we're going to church. It's like, what? It's Wednesday. I'm a good Lutheran. I have my spot in church on Sunday morning only. And it's like, nope. And mom's a tough gal. So off to church we went. And believe you me, I was upset. Now, mom's a tough lady, so you don't show that on the outside a whole lot. But when the pastor gave that invitation, there was no way in HE double hockey sticks that I was going to go down front and give her the pleasure of, I knew it was good for you. However, I laid awake all night long, worried about my eternal destiny. So the next night when we went, the preacher stands up to teach. And I run forward before he even gets into his message and kneel at the altar. He's looking down like, okay, we can do this. That was in 1965. Jackie and I met at Walton School of Bible. At one point, when we were really serious, during a hymn, I saw her closing her eyes. And I thought, oh my gosh, a closet charismatic. The reason that's important is because early on in the 80s, I was working with a Teen Challenge program out of Sequoia Community Church in Oakland. I had this dude in this session. And prior to this, I was a really solid evangelical read and do guy. I had not had much spiritual phenomena. Why would you need that if you got the Bible? And I kept getting this dark image over and over and over in my mind. And I thought, what's going on? And finally I said to the fellow, I got this picture going over in my mind, and it's dark. Can I share it with you? He said, sure. And it was of him being sexually abused by a youth pastor. And he broke. And he said, I've never shared my story. That's my story. How did you know? Now, I'm freaked out. Don't have any idea what to do next. So I did the great evangelical cop-out. Let's pray. Right? So we go to prayer. We started in prayer, and I'm overcome by the Holy Spirit, start speaking in some tongues. My very first thought was, holy bovine eschatology, I don't believe in this. And right then and there, I knew I was staring at these two trees. God was saying, of course you don't believe in it, because you know what's solid. You know that I know. The I am now is poking me in the eye. It's a couple slides later than Mark. I think it's one more. Yes, there we go. The deal is, when God's inviting us into this intimate process of actually discerning and knowing, of hearing Him, you're not going to do it through the rational mind. God doesn't necessarily interact with the broken flesh. He's seeking to free the new creation which is within us. And there is this mystical, intimate, abiding intimacy that's going on now. The problem most of us have is we're way too contented with the settle-for faith. We're contented with being with other believers, sharing some good stories, asking for prayer or saying we pray. But is that still in the level of flesh, or are we willing to have this dilemma where it's like, I don't believe in this, and yet, God, you've done something, now I have a choice that I have to wrestle with. What am I going to do? My oldest daughter, Becca, actually beat Jackie and I together. She had 7 surgeries the first 7 years of her life. The last surgery, just prior to it, here we go. I was having recurring nightmares at night of losing her. And I couldn't discern, God, is this of you? Or is this the enemy? And I'd wake up in fits. And Jackie said, what's going on? And I wouldn't tell her. The night before surgery, Jacqueline had the same sort of dreams. We went on our knees before the Lord. She's your child, God. Easy to say, real tough to say right now. Becca went into surgery, came out of surgery, things seemed to be fine. I sent Jackie home because I was such a spaz. I'm sitting beside my daughter's bed. She coughs at one point, picks up her head, and the whole other side of the bed is nothing but a big old glob of blood. I dashed into the hall, and anything that had white on it, I grabbed and threw in the room. Fix this, fix this, fix this. She came with a gnat's eyebrow, not making it. Jackie came and she tied me up and sent me home. You know, mother's got to be there. Point being, next slide. You can't be a solo operator. You've got to let other people in with you. You can't approach this just by yourself. Sometimes when we're seeking to discern, okay, what spiritually is real here? Because don't we all struggle with this? I mean, for some individuals it seems like, oh, I hear from God all the time. Other individuals like, I don't know if I've ever heard from God. You don't hear from God because you earn it. You don't hear from God because somehow you're qualified. You don't hear from God because you now measure up. It's about freeing your spirit, the new creation. It's about training out all the noise that the finite realm, the flesh, generates for you. To do that, God often will take us on these journeys that don't make a whole lot of sense. Jackie and I were in Hawaii. I think it was in the late 80s, at a conference. And she was at a business conference. I was in the room. I never wanted to go to Hawaii. I thought, hey, in Minnesota in August, it's hot, it's humid. Who would want to be there? The tropics, right? I had no idea. So we arrived at the Holly Kalani and go to check in. The first thing I hear after our 5.5-hour sticky flight, we've given your room away. Oh, great. Here we go, right? But it's the Holly Kalani. So the manager says, I have a few options I'd like to show you if that's all right. All right, fine. I mean, we're not going home right now, right? So the first option they showed us is this $1,500 suite. And he said, would this be acceptable? I'm like, yeah, what else you got? It's right on the beach, you know? And so I'm thinking, this is cool. And it had AC even. So Jackie goes off to a conference, and the Spirit of the Lord says to me, I think I was reading or studying or something, says to me, do you love me? Just the same kind of expression that Jesus said to Peter, do you love me? And I went, huh? And again, you look around because it's like, what was that? And then your spirit inside knows, I recognize that. I recognize that voice. And what happened is God began to show me this like slide projector on the old days, when they used to fade back and forth, boom, 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 boom. Different areas of my life, and it sped up faster and faster and faster and faster. And in my brain, I knew there was no way to keep up with the different things that God was asking me. Do you love me more than this? Do you love me more than this? And then, whoom, it stopped. And I went, that's weird. Was I outside too long? Jackie came back. I shared with her. She goes, what do you think that's about? I said, I have no idea. I mean, here I am just thinking we're on vacation. She takes off to another session. Spirit of the Lord comes over to me again. Similar thing. Do you love me more than this? In other areas of my life, everything's being challenged. Boom, done. She comes back at lunch. I share with her what's going on. And she goes, God's obviously in the midst of this, Jeff. Just go with it. That afternoon, the Lord comes to me and says, do you love me more than this? And this was, I felt the dark presence of some sort of entity where I began to suffocate. I couldn't breathe. I was gasping. I was going through all of my little recipes and formulas from Oklahoma. What do you do to handle something like this? Nothing was working. And at the point where I felt like it's over, it lifted. And I fell on my face before God. I'm a Norwegian from the north with God. We don't have to do all this subjective weird stuff. Just send me a letter or something. Jackie came back and we knew that we were in holy ground. That evening, we were at a small dinner with a bunch of dignitaries. And I was talking to a guy, high-ranking California official here. And I was bored out of my mind. And Jackie looked over and said, what do you want to do? I said, I gotta go. Why would I want to talk to a governor when I could talk to my father? And we sat together, and it's like, none of this makes sense. Because it's so early in this process of training. How do you let go of all of this control that's inside, of being a rational individual? How do you let go of this? We didn't get clarity. We came back, we came out of Hawaii knowing, God, if you're in it, what other choice do we have? And we said yes to God. And when we hit California soil, all hell broke loose. Two friends died in my arms. Louis was a guy I was trying to perform CPR on. You know, when you love someone, you're going to do anything you can to keep them there and bring them back. And the harder I tried, and the more I worked, the colder he got, and the colder. Now you could say that that's a pretty dark thing to God allow. In fact, I'll be honest. At one point, with all that was going on, I said to God, God, the way you're treating me, you lived in California, I could bring you up in child abuse charges. That wasn't rebellion. It was pain. It was confusion. You've got to be willing to let yourself have those authentic realities and to feel for, is this rebellion? Or is it simply not knowing? Because the flesh has to be invited into not knowing. Mark, I don't have an idea what the next slide is. So it's this one. When God speaks, even though circumstances can be incredibly chaotic, there's still a part of your being that knows this is okay. I did my master's in grad school on sexual abuse. In fact, it's kind of interesting. When I finished up, shortly thereafter, there was a gal in LA, a therapist that wanted a copy of my stuff. And sent it to her. Lo and behold, she took it and wrote a book. But there are laws of harvest that do work. She was a therapist for OJ and his wife. So when OJ had little problems and she wanted the limelight in the media, she was divulging confidentiality and privilege, so she was losing her license. Point being, when we moved into the Bay Area, I was working with the sexual crimes cases for OPD and San Manuel PD. Not all of them, but a lot. I'm doing radio, TV, all kinds of different things, trying to encourage our culture to understand there's some ugly stuff that happens in our families. And we've got to get our heads out of our butt and face it. We have a responsibility to protect innocence and vulnerability. And I get a knock at the door, and there's two boys in blue. And that's not uncommon. But I said, I got a client, so I'll give you a couple of minutes. So I sat with them for a couple of minutes. They're asking some questions. Is there any questions they're asking? Bottom line is, when I asked them to leave, with my client, they said, do you have one more minute? I said, sure. Then they read me my rights. I was the first therapist in the state of California charged with an alleged failure to report a child abuse. There was a statute that had been drafted, but it doesn't become law until it becomes case law, right? Become done. Stay. So to become case law, we have to have an example that goes into court. The detectives, when they went to the 88, they said, look, this is weak, this is lame, but they're not going to risk doing the evaluation. Her comment to them was, I don't care what we've got, I'm going to pin his to the wall. My attorney, when he found out this was going to be in a freight train, there were 7 huge articles in the back of the Examiner Chronicle paper of this scum-sucking therapist, me, in Castro Valley. My attorney went to the DA and said, "You read this file?" And he said, "No." He said, "Will you do me a favor?" I said, "All a favor and pull it." He did. And he said, "Oh my God, what do we have to do to make this right?" The retraction was up inside the obituaries. It was 2 lines, right? And several days after that, I'm sitting on my deck, just like, "Lord, what are you doing to me?" And I had a vision. I think it was my first vision. And the vision was I dropped what appeared to be an idol. It looked like an Oscar. It was shattered at my feet. I was bending over, picking it up, when I heard footsteps. And I looked up, and I saw the master coming to me, not saying anything. He walked up the steps to me. He's looking into my eyes. He wraps his hand around my big hand. He begins to squeeze harder and harder and harder. And blood begins to drip off of my wrist. Then he spoke, and he said, "I'm going to let go now. And you're free to put this back together again, or not." Your rational mind will always want to go, but in a nanosecond, my spiritual mind knew, God, you have destroyed my issue of idolatry. And that issue of idolatry was, I'm a nice guy. And some of you wrestle with idolatry. And we don't always identify idolatry as something like being nice. Now, I have never been to the principal's office, but I should have been a few times. So when this thing came out of the field, it rocked me. And this is where I started to wrestle with God. I don't get how you're loving at this point. I could not see that God, in His severe mercy, was ripping and tearing into my flesh to free my new creation. All I could feel is, this is madness. This is madness. Mark, let's go a couple slides further. Yes. Part of what I want you guys to identify is, what is it that your life bows to? We know in our culture right today that porn is a huge issue. We talk about that, and every guy starts to shrink back because it's too available. What we're not talking about is persona. Ladies, I want to make you mad this morning. You've heard Dr. Eckman in the last couple of weeks talk in terms of part of the intimate design of woman is to ease the aloneness of the dude. Right? So my question to you is, if I challenge us as men, which as a father, as a man, it means to be a life-giving influence. I try to challenge myself on a daily basis by my attitudes and actions today. If today were my first date with Jacqueline, would I get a second date? And if the answer is no, not unless she's brain dead, I know I've not been living in the heart of the Lord. I need to be able to look at my bride and know on an ongoing basis, because my life, energy, and effect on her life is getting richer and fuller. Ladies, the challenge to you is this. You need to have the courage to be able to ask your dude, being with me, is your alone greater or less? How many nights a week do you stay up on Facebook watching Dances with the Idol Stars, Gremlins, whatever the shows are, and your dude goes to bed alone? Alone. You see, we know the Michigan State study, as well as one in Perth that was done, ladies that are on Facebook too much, your isolation goes up, your depression goes up, your angst, your internal emptiness goes up. It's interesting to me that a guy that can't communicate with people, has very little social skills, develops a social media network. I mean, it's not going to work. Here's the point. Here's the point. I've seen way too many guys in their 40s and 50s that have come in and just got shot because they can't stand the loneliness. It goes like this. I'm married to one of the most exceptional women I've ever met, but I'm alone. where the loneliness is high. And I don't know if I could do it another 30, 40 years. And this, nobody does well with entitlement. I mean, in the 50s and 60s, we as men didn't do well with entitlement. Ladies, you just got to look in the mirror and go, we don't do so well either. And here's what happened this morning. I mean, you have to find your spaces where you have a greater likelihood of hearing God. Part of mine seemed to be when I'm doing something physically. So running a chainsaw, riding a bike, working in the wood shop. I love it in the shower. Now I have a pad outside. I mean, you'll have spots where God randomly quickly shows up. Isolate those. So normally I ride every Sunday morning before church with my buddy Tom. Yesterday afternoon I knew God was saying, not tomorrow. Just, we're going to be together. So at 10 to 5 this morning, I'm in the backyard with my postal digger. Because I'm building a swing area, play area for the grandkids, and this is going to be my monkey bars. And, you know, it's a little loud, it's kind of echoing the cane, so I just run a little bit of water in there to soften the sound a little, rather than go back inside. And God said to me, son, if you chose woman over me in the garden in a sinless state, what do you think would be going on today? And I got this aha what God was saying. I have had a generation to cultivate and draw men's hearts to me. That if we didn't have this level of aloneness and abandonment, we wouldn't be pursuing a father. We would be where we were in the 50s and 60s. And in that moment, I realized we all have to repent of entitlement. All of us. Ladies, you can't afford to go with shame. And women tend to be shame junkies. I don't know whether it's because you bit the apple first, or because you're these beautiful, sensual creatures and you resonate so easily. I don't know what it is. But empathy and shame are inversely correlated. Oh, baloney. If we're going to get to empathy, because you can't hear if you can't empathize. You can hear words, but you're not going to be attuned. There's listening, there's attending, there's an attunement. Stand there. Stay. Being attuned means I'm in sync with that energy that's inside. Do you think it's happenstance in Philippians 2 that Jesus, when he comes to earth, says, here's what I needed to do. I set everything aside so that I could feel. I won't even choose to regard my status and standing. I will take on this form so that I might feel the full weight of humanity. That's how important empathy is. The Desert Fathers had a saying, it is the hunger, it is the desire in the heart of the student that opens the mouth of the teacher. The same thing is true of the master. Do you desire? Do you hunger? Is God taking your breath away? If you haven't experienced God in that dimension, something else is taking your breath away. And you can't afford to go to shame. I don't do shame. I don't do blame. I mean, when the writer of Hebrews says, listen, you fix your eyes on Jesus. Why? He, for the joy set before him, the joy set before him, it's the cross. It's what Paul says is the most obscene thing on this earth. Jesus said, that's mine. Why? I, en route to that, will despise shame. And you know, when I read that, what I see shame as this big bully, which it is. But I see the Lion of Judah passing by shame just snarling at it. Listen, the enemy has no power over us, but the power we give him. When the master said it is finished, the very next thing that occurs is the door of Hades opens. And here's Satan with his little cronies having a party and going, oh, we thought we killed him. And Jesus goes, how do you want it? Lou, do you want it with me crushing your head on the ground? Or do you want me to pick you by the tail and just smash you against the wall because you know what next is? Do you believe that? Yeah, Peter says he's like a lion. He's a toothless lion that makes a lot of noise, that if you can get in your head, will cause you to fear. You have nothing to fear. Now, were all these circumstances that I described to you real? Oh yeah. Did it cause my flesh to be stirred? Oh yeah. What was the truth underneath this? Let me take you, son, into a place where I'll show you who you are. Real? Yes. Reality? No. I'm immortal, and you're immortal until God calls us home. I was in Nevada, in the Arctic wilderness at 11,000 foot, a number of years ago. And my tradition back then was to hike to the top of the mountain, 11,400 about every 2-3 days, back when the analog signals were still available, and call Jackie and check in. And Jackie said, Peter called. Peter's my neurologist at Stanford. He said, you do have MS. Wow. Right, Chris? Wow. I hung up the phone and the Lord came up to me. I felt his literal presence. He said, I am so sorry. But I want to offer you my presence. I want to hang out with you. And literally in my mind going, can you do one of those poof things that you do? You know, where everything's better, poof, poof. He offered his presence to me. Set your boat out, son. Let's just read through the Gospels together. And I did. For 4 days, over and over and over. And Jesus said to me, if you were writing a book now, what would the title be? I said, that's easy. Jesus, the God that frustrates the hell out of you. Because every person that came to Christ, whether the hell was on the outside, whether they had leprosy they couldn't see, they're lame, whatever it might be, Jesus released them from that hell. Those where the hell was locked up on the inside. He's poking them in the eye with severe mercy. He's trying to get them to acknowledge his torment now that's rising. Let it go. Stop eating from this tree of I know. How many times did they say to Christ, you know, you probably could be the Messiah, but you can't be because. Or whether it's when Jesus said, look, to hang with me, you've got to eat my flesh and drink my blood. And they never clarify, right? So the mob vanishes, because that's nuts. Well, I've read the law, I know. There's always this clench, there's this angst with I know. Can you imagine in the upper room, sitting with the disciples, when Jesus says, this is my body, this is my blood. What? Did any of the disciples go, I got it. I got it. It's somehow related to this incarnation thing again. The psalmist in Psalm 23. A lot of times we read the psalm and we only see the comfort side of it. Paul in Romans 8 says, we don't have a spirit of fear. We even give it a spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba. Wait. It's Abba. Father. It's this recognition that as Jesus is, so am I. Yeah. So when you look at Psalm 23 and you see a father taking a son or daughter into the valley of the shadow of death, or dining in the center of the Al-Qaeda training facility, doesn't that look a little abusive to you? If a dad here in California did that, would the boys in blue not be knocking on their door? You see, God has to take us into these dark places where in the valley of the shadow, all right thinking will die. And you'll be feeding from this tree over here, or not. I can tell you, most of us that have gone through some of these dark night of the souls, the cost is huge, but you would never, ever, ever take it from us. There's a deep soberness in walking into this. But we're being freed from the brokenness of the flesh. How can that be a bad thing? Consequently, this is why, though you slay me, yet I will bless you. It comes from the lips of so many brothers and sisters that have gone before us. Let's pray. Father, for those that hunger and thirst to know you, and I know they're here because you've shown me this, let them know in their knower. You dwell on the mercy seat. Rocks and trees, winds and waves know your name, God. They've never lost sight. I know, Father, this is a season you're calling men and women, brothers and sisters, into a much richer, more intimate place with you. May they have the courage to say yes and to follow. Pray in your name.